you ready? Okay. All right, we will call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. Trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. Public comments on closed session items. Seeing no one in here. At this time, any person may address the board on any closed session item or any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the board cannot consider issues or take action on requests during this comment period. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. In closed session, we will be going over C1, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Superintendent. C2, Conference with Labor Negotiators. And no public comments, so we will move into closed session at 5:01 p.m. At 6:01 p.m. And if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And approval of the agenda order. The board reserves the right to change the order in which agenda items are discussed and or acted upon at this meeting, subject to further action by the board. The agenda for this meeting is to be approved as presented. Items may be added to this agenda for discussion or action only as permitted by the Brown Act. And if I have a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion by trustee Zeiglix.
I'll second.
A second by trustee Garrison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. Okay, public comment on consent and non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent or non-agenda item pursuant to the Brown Act. During this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person per item, 20 minutes per topic. Do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move to closed session reportable action taken. There was no reportable action in closed session. And moving on to the consent calendar. Does anyone have any consent items to pull? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
A motion by trustee Ogamian.
I'll second.
A second by trustee Zeiglix. Preferential? Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. Okay, moving on to association reports. J1 California School Employees Association does not have a report tonight. Oh, he already told me. No, report. Want it. All right. J2 Teachers Association of Cloverdale. I'm gonna guess there's none. See no one here. Okay, district reports. K1 Jefferson Elementary School.
Do you? Should we take some bets? I just wanted to add, we had a fabulous STEAM night the other night. It was our first STEAM night we've had at Jefferson. We had close to 100 participants, which since I've been here, we haven't had that many people in that cafeteria after school hours. So it went great, and we'll have pictures to show you. Other than that, my report is as submitted.
Thank you. K2 Washington School.
Hello, very nice to see everybody. You have my report as submitted, and I just want to do an additional shout out to the artist, Andres Marquez, and to Mac and Heidi Butler for doing the painting and everything in our gym. I don't know if you've seen it, but it now says Home of the Eagles, and it just looks fantastic. And we had a little ceremony this week and had Kiwanis come, and it was a really nice event. But I just want to publicly thank all three of them because they did a great job. Thank you. Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. K3 Cloverdale High School JEH.
Hi, everyone. You have my report as submitted.
Thank you. K4 Special Education and Student Services report.
Hello, you have my report, but I actually have something to add this time, for the first time in like many moons.
All
right. So I've used the term wellness center a few times in my board reports now, and it occurred to us that I should probably explain what that is. It sounds self-explanatory, but there's a little bit more background, of course, as there always is in educational things. So a wellness center is a little bit of what it sounds like, but it's also a little bit more. It is a place. And specifically, it's a welcoming place where kids can go and where they should feel like it's their space on campus. It's also a service delivery model that has become really popular in California, and specifically in our county, lots of high schools have been adopting this model because it really supports collaboration between all of the folks who are working on health and mental health wellness. So we're considering a wellness center at the high school to serve both of our high schools. For lots of reasons. There's lots of great research, as you can see on the next few slides. Yes, yes, absolutely. And I have printed copies as well. It supports better attendance, it supports better grades, it supports really just a sense of belonging at school for students to have this kind of space and support for their wellness. So the next few slides just cover that. And then, of course, I wanted to throw in a little bit about funding. As we know, that's a hot topic. So if we were to open a wellness center, there would be no contribution from the general fund. It would all be supported by the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, CYBHI, which is the state's new mechanism for funding mental health and wellness, really through the public or private insurance system. So both Medi-Cal and private insurances pay into the system, which we would be tapping into. Okay. And really where we are right now is where we've done our research, we've gotten the background, we know that this is something we can do using CYBHI, so we're bringing it to the community, to students, to staff to get their input. And we're looking at options. Do you have any questions at this time?
My initial concern is when our students come to this wellness center, how involved are parents, or that kind of raises my antenna, because I want to make sure that the students do feel welcome, but I also want to make sure the parents have autonomy on how. I don't know how to articulate. I just want to make sure that we don't cross any boundaries, per se. Does that make sense, or am I want to make sure the student is able to come, but parents are also aware of this whole process, that their child's going to a school wellness center rather than their own personal pediatrician or other type of resources they might choose to provide. Is that
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit complicated, the way I'm trying to.
It sounds like you're thinking that there might be like a lot of medical
Yes, I want to make sure that
things going on.
Because it says we're providing not just other resources. Is it just mental health resources, or are we doing other type of medical intervention?
That's a great question. So right now, what we're looking at is really bringing all of the services that we currently provide into one space.
Okay.
So like we have a school nurse right now, right? She doesn't do any like serious medical procedures.
Well, I don't understand medical procedure, but there
Yeah.
are things that some parents may want to be involved with, rather than have a discussion with their own, I don't know, medical provider. So I just want to make sure that we don't kind of cross that line.
And we would follow the same confidentiality and
Okay.
notification procedures that we follow
Perfect.
now. There is an option, if we have a wellness center, that at some point in the future, we could work with, like, Alexander Valley, for example.
Okay.
To have them come in and actually offer services on our campus, things like immunizations or sports physicals. That's a possibility we can look into. And of course, then they would follow all of the same procedures that Alexander Valley usually follows for children. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, the biggest thing is Nicole's hitting on is really is having all the services we currently have in one room
Okay.
or one building per se, as opposed to having them spread out. Essentially, we did the same thing in my last district where we created a wellness center. That was basically what it was. We had the psychologists in there, we had everybody in there. Just that way we didn't have to, okay, hey, you need to go see such and such, or, it felt more like the DMV when you have that, right? Where now we have everything under kind of one roof. And some people have really, in the state of California, some people have expanded it to include, more of a family resource center, right? Where, now this is different than that, but on top of that also, they had where families could come and get diapers or things like that too. But that was a little bit more in conjunction with something else. We already have some of those services here, but this would mainly just be about bringing all the services together into one piece for that part. And I think to the point you're bringing up, if we were to add anything that we don't currently have, that would have to come through you guys to allow us to be able to do that. But
Yeah.
main thing is just the ease of, going into one building for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you thinking that this wellness center would be located? And
Oh, gosh.
you had said it would be for both JEH and the high school. So would they just go to the same spot, or would they each have their own, or?
It would likely be one place, and for JEH to access it, because it would likely be on the CHS campus somewhere. It's not a very long walk, but it would be a little bit of a walk. We're looking at, there are a couple rooms right now that are being lightly used or not fully used, so we're looking at those spaces, and really we're just kind of open to options, and we're kind of in an inquiry phase right now on that.
It won't be at the south property.
No, it will be on campus somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then would it just be also the same hours as school, or would there be before and after school hours as well, or what are you envisioning it?
That's a good question, and that's really something I'd want to get input from students and staff on as well. We had initially talked about it being during the school day, but we can look at what the need is for students.
Yeah, in my experience, we started the same way of just school hours, and we found that a half hour before school started and an hour after school started was kind of the sweet spot where kids would get the most kids. Like we had some kids before because their schedules were just packed, right, and they didn't feel like they had time to be able to come in, so it allowed that part. And then we also had a situation much like we have at JEH where we had it was called East High there. So it allowed them, because they all got dropped off close by the transportation, which was close to where the wellness center was, so it allowed them some time in the morning before their school started for that part. So that might be something. But again,
That's
we're
nice.
just in like infant stages, essentially,
Yeah.
just kind of looking
Yeah.
at this to see if it's a possibility. That's why Nicole and I were talking. I thought it would be good to bring up just kind of skeletally what we're kind of looking at doing. And of course, funding was a big issue to make sure that it didn't,
Yes.
wasn't an extra expense for that part. So there's a lot to be discovered and determined between now and then, but we'll keep updating you guys as it's going.
And then I have one more question, and again, you may not have this thought out yet, but is it something that we would also be able to offer during the summer, where like these students are getting these services, and then summer happens and stop, and then they have to wait? So is it something that we can possibly make it available, once a week, or, just
Yeah, these are great
brainstorming
questions.
as a possibility, or
I think these are great questions, and some things I hadn't thought of before. And, I think we can definitely talk about it from a CYBHI funding perspective. There's no reason we can't. We can bill insurance all year round. So.
We looked at that also, and one of our issues was finding staff to do it was the hard part. But there was certainly a need for that. Not a giant need, but there was definitely a need for that. And so my previous district, we had a harder time just staffing it was the issue. Because it's not one of those things you can just kind of be open, right? You have to have some staff in there in order for it to make it actually have the services there. So.
Yeah, that's it.
My last question, sorry. So let's talk about the staff that just to bring type of staffing, would we have a counselor, psychologist, nurse? Who would be in the wellness center? Is it just?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yep, those are all people we already have on staff. We are going to explore the possibility of hiring a new staff member to kind of like be the coordinator of that space. And if we did that, that would be funded completely through CYBHI, so.
Yeah, because we read, and Nicole and I talked about that when we first started ours. We didn't have somebody kind of stationed there. And so it was just, people were coming and going, and some kids would show up and there wouldn't be an adult there, and it was just really, a tough thing to go. So that was one thing we definitely learned. And I think it's very important to understand that we're not doing clinical stuff there, right? What we're doing is we're doing what we're currently doing, and then if there is an issue that arises, it's also a way for us to hook them into other services potentially, right? To be able to carry that out. And so again, that has to do with just, again, being in the same room, establishing those contacts and things too, right? Instead of, again, like I said before, having to send them over here or send them there. That way you kind of have all the people in the same, and that's where the coordinator will be able to help too, is to be able to figure out. And again, we haven't even talked to the units about any of these jobs or anything like that. We're just trying to get the skeletal part, and then we'll start filling in stuff like from the questions you guys are asking.
Yeah.
Our two major hurdles there for the funding, and then where's it going to go? Right? And then we can start talking about all that stuff is our thought. But I didn't want to start that without us you guys having an idea, because like Nicole said, she's mentioned it a few times. It's like this,
It's
thing
this
out there.
thing
But,
that I've thrown out there.
I think everybody has a different idea, and every district has a little different idea of how they do their wellness center for that part, because it's somewhat of a general term.
Do you have a time frame of when you're hoping to have this, like next school year?
I think next week. I think we're probably gonna do
Get right on that.
Yeah, I think
Next
best
school
case
year.
would be next week or next year. But again, a lot of things have to align. I mean, these positions we're talking about have to be created potentially, and things like that too. So we got to figure all that stuff out.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to K5, Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation Report.
We're growing big out there at maintenance.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everyone, and my report is as submitted.
Thank you. And K6, Business Services Report.
Okay, happy January, everybody. Wow, I gotta bring this way down. I never felt so short. Okay, so this is our monthly business report, so this is going to be short and quick this time. Maybe. She turned it off. She's very efficient. Okay, so for January, we did have an increase at a couple of our schools, so we've got a little bit of an uptick of about 8 students from prior month. Unfortunately, though, we are still down about 31 students from prior year at the same time. So we're still continuing to watch that enrollment, and we'll see what February brings. For average daily attendance, during month 5, that was the month right before we went out on break, our total ADA was 1,146.61, and that is down 50.89 from prior year. So again, something else that we're having to watch, because all of our expenses are based on enrollment, but all of our income is based on attendance. So it's really fair. Okay, so revenues as of 12/31/25, you can see that we have had a nice increase in our local control funding revenue sources. That's primarily because of taxes. We received the bulk of those in December, April, and then we get some residual ones in May and June, but those are the big ones. We get state aid. We do not get state aid during November or December or June, so it's really important that we get those taxes in. So that's why we now have 57% of our estimated revenue received at this time. 33% for state, 85% for local revenue, and for a total average of about 57%. So we're about tracking for where we need to be for this time of year. Expenditures also continue to track pretty well. Overall, it's about 44%. I'm not going to delve into the services and operating expenses. We kind of did that last month. We kind of talked about that a lot. So even though these are the actual expenses at this time, it doesn't include what's encumbered, what's been set aside, what people have planned to spend. So when we look at those numbers, we're about tracking where we need to be as well. There are no changes from first interim for our contributions. We're still looking at the routine restricted maintenance account, special education, and the LCAP for supplemental concentration funds, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later today. And then the ending fund balance, there was also no change since first interim. These will be updated when we have second interim coming up. Any questions? Okay, I'll be back.
Thank you. We will move on to student board representative.
So for the senior class, we've been preparing for Mr. Eagle, the pageant, and the senior trip. We have dates for both of them. Mr. Eagle is around February 27th, and the senior trip will be on May 7th, and we're fundraising for that as well. The junior class has set up a Seas Candy fundraiser, as well as doing a car wash in the next few days or weeks as well. And we had a fairly successful Christmas rally, I'd say, and a Spirit Week as well, right before break. And Key Club donated a little over $600 to the Christmas table from their from what they got at the crab feed. And since everyone just got back from break, no one has reported any issues to me. Yeah, that's it.
Where is your senior trip?
The senior trip, we're still debating on where. We have a few options, either Pier 39 or Santa Cruz like last year, or our advisor, Mr. Stewart, suggested going on a boat ride. I think it's near San Francisco as well, so it's about 3 hours on the boat ride. That would include catering and a DJ as well. So we've sent out a Google form on the Google Classroom to see who, to vote and see what the students would like most.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. And moving on to board reports.
I'll go. I attended one of the winter TK performances. It was for Miss Fader's class. It was very sweet. Trustee Lopez White and I attended a coffee chat at Washington Middle School. I also attended the SARB meeting. Unfortunately, nobody showed up, but we were able to do a lot of review of the contracts that we have and looking ahead. I also attended the alumni basketball fundraiser, which is very entertaining to watch and for a good cause. And then I was able to attend 3 of the 4 JEH Big Picture Learning exhibitions. And it's always great to see how the students there have grown and how they're doing on their graduation status. So good job to them. That's it.
Thank you.
I'll go. I was able to attend a Boosters Club meeting. That was good. Not much to report there for the first meeting. Lots of winter festivities. Just keeping up with the girls' basketball. That's been interesting. And I think that's it.
I can go. So I attended the first major H meeting. I loved how it was quick. It was great. But anyway, I'll leave the update for later. But it looks like everything at the elementary school new building is going well. I think I love how we're transparent in our money, where the money's going. But I also attended the first grade Jefferson Christmas Carol. I also played in the city alumni game. Definitely got a basket, and I had a nice spin move, but I missed a shot. And that's it so far.
Thank you. I did make it to one of the exhibitions at JEH. Like Trustee Garrison said, I attended a coffee chat with her, and I also attended the Boosters Club meeting with Trustee Zegler. And that's all. So moving on to superintendent report.
Yeah, you will see the first interim from the county letter that basically agreed with our decision to do a positive certification, so that's good. I went to several of those programs as well. I was asked to play on the basketball game, but 2 years in a row didn't sound very good. Last year I embarrassed myself, but so every other year I told them I would do it, so I could embarrass myself every other year. No, obviously there's a lot going on in the week leading up to the break. It does feel like it's been a long time since we had this. And so, yeah, you'll hear more from me in the dashboard report in a second.
Thank you. Moving on to report discussion item 01, Measure H update.
Get this back up here a little bit. How's it going, you guys? I just wanted to get you a little update and give a little bit of color to where we at with the project. And so if you've been driving by, you've probably been able to check in on the progress a little bit, but a lot of it you can't see within the building. So just want to kind of speak to some of that. One of the big milestones that was hit with the project was handing over a big chunk of the parking back over to the site. So that's hopefully been able to relieve a little bit of the parking constraints that they've had over there. Probably even with all the unlimited parking, it's really tight over there on Jefferson. So being able to get that back to them, that's gone really well. We obviously had some rain events that happened over the winter break, but thankfully, obviously, the building shells were all there, so a lot of progress was still made within the buildings. And when you actually do stucco for the buildings, it's okay to, if you don't have rain, you're actually out there watering it as well during the curing process. So that was able to still make progress. Building A, which is west closest to the ocean, that building, we're inside knocking out the HVAC ducting, already made way on the first coat of the paint, doing the T-bar ceiling, and then they've got the scaffolding down on that building. Once that scaffolding around the building comes down, then they're able to start working on the flat work and pouring curbs and sidewalks and whatnot. So that's going on in Building A. Building B is on the same course and right around the corner from that. Once you see that scaffolding come down on Building B, then you're going to see a lot of headway made on the flat work and the bulk of the site work getting knocked out. So that's kind of where we stand on that. Casework and cabinets and all the really cool finishes are starting to come in as well. We'll be doing the epoxy flooring, and we're already doing the vinyl on the walls and getting everything ready for all the IT. So the project's definitely on a good schedule, and yeah, just wanted to provide a little bit of color, so if you've been cruising by and you didn't know maybe all the details of what was going on, that way you can kind of see what we have slated. And then the rest of the report's as submitted, and I'm open to ask any questions if you guys thought of anything as you've been cruising by or anything at all.
What's tentative date for completion?
Yeah, we got an updated baseline schedule from Increment 1, and because they're on the site work, that's kind of the schedule that we've been following the closest. Closeout starting April 1st is where we're looking at for that. So the month of April is starting to work on the closeout and everything in there. Yeah, obviously weather pending and things happen, and would push back concrete pours and different things like that, but the way we're looking, that's how we have it scheduled.
Thank you.
Good for you. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys.
Moving on to 02, 2025 California dashboard update.
I had to follow Nicole and Michael and Aaron and short guy up here. Okay, we're required to give you guys an update on and do a report on our dashboard. Our dashboard is basically a temperature gauge of what we're doing in the school, in the district. So we'll go through this and kind of give you the overview of the district first, and then dive into each one of the schools, and so on. So we've been doing this for probably 10 years, maybe? Close to 10 years, probably, for the dashboard. And they've gone from colors to wheels to speedometers to everything, and now they're kind of got it all in one deal. So here's, and again, I'm one of those kind of people that doesn't like to read the slides. When I go to the conferences and people just read their slides, it kind of is annoying. So you have it in front of you, and so if any questions come up, but basically we're going to talk about, there's a new indicator this year, which is a science indicator. It hasn't happened before. They've been taking the science test, but they haven't had an indicator on the dashboard yet. And then we've got, yellow, green, and blue are all good, and then it kind of is down from there. And you'll see here that there's a kind of a, pinwheel, I guess, if you would say. It looks kind of like a speedometer. And then here's a matrix that'll show you how they come up with their colors. Think of it that it has to do with progress from where you are, not the raw numbers, but more of the progress. So you might still be, as a district, way behind, like several points below the average, but you still could potentially be like a yellow or a green because you've improved a certain amount of percentage, right? And you also find that in some of our schools, being in smaller school districts like JEH, you're not going to get a lot of indicators because there's too few students, right? So they don't want to be able to do something that could potentially be identifying certain students. And you'll see that on some parts you'll have an NA because they won't be able to show that. Obviously, everybody wants blue. But naturally, if you're kind of a math nerd like some of us are, that there's really no way to get all blue necessarily, because you can't keep maintaining, because maintaining gets you in the orange and the green, or excuse me, in the yellow and the green, and so you can't always have blue necessarily. Okay, so overall comments, it lists some of our highlights that we have on the left-hand side. And again, you can read all these. And then on the right-hand side, we've got some areas that are in our red zones, okay, which we as a school and as an administration try to look at those to see where different ways that we can increase that. Some of the things just that might throw you off a little bit, LTEL, we call LTELs, which is long-term English language learners, which I believe is 6 years and farther, if they haven't been reclassified. And then I'm trying to think anything else. I think most of you understand the chronic absenteeism and things like that too, right? There's a certain plateau or a level you get to be chronically absent. Okay, moving forward. Here's the district dashboard data. And I know it's tiny, so please, it's in your sheet to be able to see. There's no way you're going to be able to read it up here. But what's nice is it comes nice and color-coded, so you can pretty much look it over. The green and blue areas are, like I said, better, on the better side. The red areas are the areas that have the most concern. And you'll see at the bottom of each one of these slides that it lists the highlights as well as the areas of support. We're using soft language here. Instead of it just being crappy areas, we're going to say levels of support that we need. And of course, they're broken down into different groups. I know you can't see it, but if you look on the left-hand side, you have like English learners, LTELs, socially economically disadvantaged, homeless, foster youth, so they break them all down. And again, if there's a certain color that's not there or it's grayed out, is because either they don't qualify for that or there's not enough people to be able to do that. Does that make sense? Okay. And then just kind of a historical data, which goes from 2022 to 2025. You will notice that some of those, like in science, right, they have the gray areas because they weren't given, right, and so on and so forth. We're kind of getting past the COVID areas, so those were blank areas because we just weren't giving the tests during that time, so we're kind of getting past that. And again, it lists some additional highlights, and then also areas of support. And you'll start seeing some themes as you read through that for certain groups. Then the next one is comparison to California. Again, so this is district-wide, right? So we're trying to compare basically, then the state of California has to do with the entire state, not just like districts similar to our size. It's the entire student population of California. And again, additional highlights and then additional areas of support. Please stop me if you have any questions. Then we get to our school level dashboard. So guess where we get to start? At Jefferson, right? And again, similar type setup where you have your performance, we have our highlights, we have our areas of support, and then you will see the different colors. Again, with the colors, it's the same colors, right? With the green and the blue are good, and red and yellow on down. Okay? And again, historical data there. So very similar to each one of the, as a district, as the school sites, where we have our current data, our historical data, and then we didn't have the California because California only does it for district-wide, right? So historical data here, and then we put little parts in there that shows, that kind of gives the numbers or reasons behind why there's certain colors. All right? Washington School is next. Again, here are the highlights. Here are the areas of support, performance, color, and improvement overview. I know it's a lot, but that's why you have the slides too, to be able to see. And then again, with historical data, we got a little bit of red in the mathematical area. And you'll leave that there. And Cloverdale High School, again with the highlights and areas of support, and so on. And again with the historical data. And remember, science is just being started, right? So for the actually making it on the dashboard. So you'll see science is listed there, but you'll see on all these, but you won't see a color, because remember, this is the first time they've assigned it colors, right? Because it's the first time it's been on the dashboard. And of course, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but this is all last year's scores, right? So these are one that were taken last spring for that part. We're always a year behind. And then a continuation school, these ones are going to be frustrating because there's not enough kids to be able to have it. So that way there's only one line, which is basically just all students. So some of the subcategories, there's just not enough people in the subcategories to be shown. This is very common for a continuation school for sure. Even on some bigger continuation schools, just because bigger, you're maxed out in a continuation school at 10% of your I don't know if it's a district or if it's the high school. I believe it's just the high school that you can have. An improvement goal. So this is basically a way that we're kind of highlighting the lowlights, if that makes any sense. We're the lowest. So our English learner progress, in order to improve a color, so if we're currently at red and we want to get to yellow, or I don't know exactly what they are, but we need to be able to increase by at least 2% for each one of those. So it just kind of gives you the parameters that you need to increase in order to move up a color, right? So from green to blue, obviously with blue you can't go any higher, but this kind of gives you an idea of what you need to be able to increase or get better and what percentage in order to be able to move a color, right? I think part of the misnomer is that if you're really good at something, you always have blue, but that's not the case, right? It's blue compared to what you were last year, right? So if you continue the improvement part. So I won't say what I was going to say. So if you, like the graduation rate, for example, only has to increase by 1% to go up, right? So if you're at like 98%, it's going to be hard to get an increase in what's going on, right? So it's not a perfect system, but I think if you understand the system, it makes it a little bit easier to grapple. Okay? And that is it, I think. I got ahead of myself there. Questions,
Yeah.
comments?
Under,
What page are you on, Chad?
well, I'm just looking at historical data, all of them. So
Yes.
if I read this correctly, we're 151, let's go with the high school.
Okay.
For mathematics, for 2025, we're 151% below average?
Not 151%.
So what is that?
We're 150 points below.
Points, okay.
Yes. So I'm trying to think how we can explain that. What do you guys think on that?
So the points are,
So you have a, let me take a stab at it. You guys can correct me. So you have a level of where you are considered, what's the word I'm looking for? I know, not average, but proficient, right? And so there's a number, let's say it's 100, right? Or let's say it's 200. We're saying that basically we're 150 points below that
standard.
standard, correct?
So how do we know what the
Right.
efficient number is if we're 151 below?
Or it'd be 151 better. 151, so we're 151 points below where and probably if I'm not saying this right, where a proficient student would score for that group, right? It's not individual, it's for a group, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
So yes, so the idea, so the red and the number are both helpful, right? So, because you could be red and only be 10 points below, right, if you dropped enough, right? But our problem is we're red and we're way below.
So I think I don't know if I'm speaking for you, but what's the starting point? How do we figure out what the starting?
That's a good
what's the
question.
baseline?
Well, I do know historically, obviously, that like if we look at, let's say, mathematics for all students, right? Last year we were 120 below and now we're 132 below, right? So we increased from 23 to 24, but from 24 to 25 we decreased. That's the change in color, right? But we're still
What's our poll?
well below.
Yeah.
Right, even though we have better color last year, we were so well below. But your question would be is what is the score that we're trying to get?
Hitting the mark.
Yeah, like
Yes.
what's our scale that we're looking at? With
I don't know how to explain that. I don't,
So it's just an arbitrary number at
no, it's not arbitrary, but I don't know that number. I just know that most people deal with it about how far you are away from
Right.
either positive or negative from the goal. Does that make sense?
Trying to figure out what the
I think that's.
The question is, how do they determine
Be
the
proficient,
goals?
right,
How do you determine
right.
the
So there is proficient, and then one higher than that, which is more than proficient, right, or advanced, right? But there are two tiers lower than that. So it's like nearing, and I should know all this, but it's just.
I feel like another way that they could put it is how many numbers above absolute failing is it? Like the bottom.
Oh, okay, here we go. So you've got standard met, which is let's use math as an example. So from a score from 2586 to 2652 is considered standard met or level 3. And then if you go above that, you just got a text message. If you go above that, if you go from 2653 and higher, you are what's considered exceeding the standard, right? Which is level 4. The middle one's the one I just told you was level 3, standards met. And then you have standard nearly met, which goes from 2504 to 2585, which is level 2. And then below that, standard not met, which is 2265 to 2503. And I'm assuming that's just a raw score that you would get based on your, so a score, then it says a score approximately 2,500 is generally considered the threshold for meeting the standards across the grades. This is for grade 8, for example.
That makes it sound a lot better when
Yeah.
you're talking about numbers in the thousands.
Right.
No, but you understand if you're looking at this, right? Like we have some in English language that are 17 and 29 below, where the 100 and something is a bigger deal, right, than that, right? And I get comparatively, I understand what you're talking about, but
what I'm saying is that math is not good and English is not good, but math is worse than English,
Yeah.
right? Does that make sense? Yeah, so, but thank you for supplying that, so.
Yes.
I mean, anyone can go on this website and check
It
it.
is available, yeah, and all the years are on there,
Yeah.
correct. It's just,
You can
it's,
compare us to other districts.
it's just not aggregated as good as this is. That, because you basically go on there and you'll see, you can't do a historical on one, they just show you 1 year, show you the next year, and so on. So this is a little bit better constructed, and we're going to put this on our website too, because that way you can see it comparatively a little bit better. Well, I'm not there anymore, but.
Might want to put a disclaimer on our website that that's not percent.
And see, that's the problem, is, and really, I mean, on the website, on the dashboard website, it deals more with colors than it does with the number parts, which I think is a kind of a simpler way to do it. But even then, the colors aren't always, you could actually be in a blue and still be below standard, I believe, right? If you increase enough,
100%.
right, you could actually be blue. But I don't know if you can get to blue, actually. Yeah. Anyway, I'm probably making it worse, but, yeah, so if you're,
It's just,
yes, if you're medium or low, the best you can get is, it'd be at yellow, right? So there is, yeah, it would have to be a little higher in order to get it to blue. But again, we're trying to get to basically where there's no red, really. I mean, is the realistic part, where there's no red. I think that's a pretty realistic thing to do for that. All right?
It's a good goal.
And as you dive in a little bit more, you might have more questions that we can certainly answer, things like that. It's just, I think what the idea behind it is to be able to give a measuring stick for how your district does compared to the state, essentially. But it is a little convoluted on how they come up with the colors, that you're right. I think it does take a little bit of a legend to figure out how to interpret the data. But I think the idea, again, behind it was to look and see if there's a lot of red, that's not good. All right? And if there's a lot of blue, then yay, right? So, okay. Do you guys have anything you want to add? You do? Okay. You to show this, or? Okay.
In my December board report, I included a breakdown of all the Sonoma County schools and all the nearby schools for Mendocino and Lake counties, kind of comparing where Cloverdale's at. So if you look in the December board report, you can click on that. And I just went on the California dashboard and looked up everyone's score and recorded everything. And so it's really helpful to kind of give a perspective to our nearby schools and how we're doing. Like every single school in Sonoma County, Lake County, Mendocino County is in the negative in terms of math scores. So everybody is points behind, nobody is points ahead. So it's just kind of helpful to kind of compare how we're doing, because like Cloverdale High School has some of the highest scores in the whole Sonoma County, and we don't have any of the lowest scores anywhere. So it's helpful just for comparison reasons.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we will move on to discussion action item. P1, consideration and acceptance of donation. The donations, PG&E Blackbaud donated $40 to JH. Parker L. Doan Revocable Trust donated $7,242.14 to Cloverdale High School Athletics. Cloverdale Eagle Pride Boosters donated $4,200 to Cloverdale High School for the Huddle subscription, and Cloverdale Eagle Pride Boosters also donated $360 to Cloverdale High School basketball. If I can get a motion to approve the donations.
Move to approve the donations.
Motion by trustee Garrison,
I'll second.
second by trustee Zykowicz. Preferential?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. Moving on to P2, consideration and possible acceptance of the 2024-2025 audit report.
Okay, so I want to start off by saying that the way you read the audit reports that you should have in your packet is you start them in the back. and you start with the audit findings, and you look and see what were your audit findings, what were your audit findings last year, and is there any problems or anything, has anything changed? So for us, for 24-25, we had no audit exceptions. We had no audit exceptions in the previous year, so we were good there too. And then the other part that for me is a personal thumbs up is the fact that there were no changes to the unaudited actual numbers that you were presented and approved that were then translated to the audit. So super excited and happy about that. That always makes me really happy. Okay, so what is the purpose of audits? Why do they do this, right? So what it's supposed to do, according to the state controller's office, is it's supposed to promote accountability over public educational funding and encourage effective and efficient use of state and federal funds. This is quite ironic coming from the state. However, that is the goal. So, and it is quite a process that we go through with our annual audit. We are required, so the first step is that the audit guide is put together by the subcommittee of the State Controller's Office, which is the Education Audit Appeals Panel, or the EAAP, because we need more acronyms. And they have to have that adopted and issued by July 1st of each year for the year in which you're going to be audited. Then, because that's not enough, they also issue a supplemental guide, which is available by March 1st of every year, so that they can come up with more things that they want us to check and all that stuff. So that we do that. Then, the next thing is that by April 1st, school districts must contract with an independent auditor, because we're required to pay an outside auditor to come and audit us, so that we meet the compliance of the state, right? Because we're not wasting funds. Anyway, we are in a multi-year contract with Christie White Associates, so the people that just completed our audit will be our auditors for 25-26 as well. The County Office of Education then will contract with an independent auditor if a school district fails to do so, and they have to do that by May 1st. Then for the rest of the spring, summer, for the rest of the spring, summer, and fall, the auditors work with us. They request multiple items, they check everything, and they follow the state audit guide. And it is not the same as if they are looking for all the different things that can go wrong. They are being tasked by the state to look for specific things that are outlined in that audit guide, okay? So not everything gets audited, just those things. The audit report then is filed with the California Department of Ed and the State Controller's Office and the County Superintendent of Schools by December 15th. Then after that, before January 31st, so at the January board meeting, the school board is asked to review the audit report and any sort of corrective actions. And we don't have any corrective actions this year because we don't have any audits exceptions. Then, if we did, the school district would have to submit corrective actions to the county office by March 15th, and then the county certification is due to CDE and the state controller's office by May 15th, just in time to start all over again for the next year. So, what are the most common audit findings? The most common places that we have problems, or school districts have problems, are like attendance reporting. One of the things that they see often is mathematical errors or verification, so they failure to trace pupils' attendance from the data origination to the final reports accurately. So when a teacher marks a student absent, and then following them through of what was the verification for that absence, who verified it, how was it verified, and then all the way to the final reports. And that's one of the things that the auditors do, is they check from the very beginning all the way through a student's attendance. So attendance reporting, verification, independent study is also an area where school districts can make a lot of mistakes, because there are a lot of rules around independent study, how the contracts are executed, when they're executed. They have to have sample work attached to the contract so that they can verify that there was actual work done, all of those things. The next place is personnel and instruction compliance, and this is primarily like teacher misassignments. So like if you have a teacher whose credential is in English and you have them teaching 6 periods of math, that's a misassignment. You're going to have some problems. So that's one of the places that we get in trouble. Kindergarten continuance. So if you have a student that is repeating kindergarten, you have to make sure that you have certain paperwork on file and available to the auditors for every single student that is in that case, in that situation. And that sometimes people miss that.
That's not just kindergarten though, you just use kindergarten as an example?
Nope, it is just kindergarten. Kindergarten is the only one that's audited and is required. The other ones, you're not required to have.
Although kindergarten, you're not required to attend kindergarten.
Right, exactly. Because it's the state, it makes perfect sense. Thank you, yeah, that's true. Instructional time then is another...
Yeah, no kidding.
Instructional time is another place that school districts can get into a lot of trouble, and this is making sure that the minimum number of instructional minutes or annual school days is required by Ed Code. And so we have to calculate we take the bell schedules, we count all of the regular days, we count all of our shortened days, we count all of our minimum days and everything, and they all have to meet the annual numbers that are required by us by the CDE. So that's some place that sometimes districts get caught into. The next place is in internal financial controls. One of the hot spots and one of the biggest places that you have fraud is in the associated student body, so ASB. Frequent exceptions occur there due to poor documentation of cash receipts, and that's where you end up with fraud, because it's really easy to just kind of pocket the cash and say, oh, we didn't collect that. Those tickets weren't really we didn't sell that many tickets or something. So ASB is a hotbed for fraud and one of the places that they really audit heavily. We are really lucky to have Lizette at the high school here. She is really, really good, and really shout out to her. She does a great job. Inventory and equipment, failure to maintain updated equipment inventories and conduct physical counts every 2 years as required by federal and state compliance. That's something in the audit guide that has to be checked. The last area is public reporting and programmatic compliance. And that refers to things like the school accountability report card. And we were just talking, Kathleen and I, about the school accountability report card and who really looks at it and who checks it and all these things. Well, the auditors do. So, and they want to make sure that we have everything in there. We have to have all the student demographics, all of the teachers' credentials, all of the facilities conditions and everything. And then another area that is on the rise for having issues is the local control accountability plan. And it's inconsistencies between the expenditures that are described in the LCAP and the actual budget allocations. So what they're doing is they take the LCAP and then they apply it to the budget, and they make sure that all of those expenditures tie with every goal and action. And so that's checked every year. They look at that. So that's becoming an area of concern for different places. So what happens with these audit findings? Some of these audit findings don't have any sort of material impact. You kind of get a slap on the wrist and you keep going. But other ones have a significant fiscal impact. And those areas include average daily attendance reporting, instructional time and days. It looks very similar to this previous list. Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. That one is the new ELOP funds that we get for our after-school program. And those are starting to climb. Non-compliance with the ELOP requirements, such as insufficient student-to-teacher ratios or lack of required program components, can result in fiscal penalties based on the program's enrollment and funding rates. So that's becoming an issue for folks. The other one is the current expense classroom compensation. That is the CEA form that you guys approved in the unaudited actuals. And that is for compensation that says that we're supposed to spend a certain amount of our budget in the classroom. That's where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be educating kids. That's where the money is supposed to be going. And we had no problem passing that this last year. And then the final area then is, ASB, and then the LCAP. And then the CDE provides specific penalty calculators because it's not just ever one for one, because they're going to say, okay, you missed this one part, we checked this one independent study student, their contract wasn't correct, so we're going to say that all of your independent study contracts aren't correct, or they're going to say a percentage of them is, so it can be a really big penalty, so you have to really watch that. Any questions about why we have school audits? Okay, and we did a great job on ours, so I want to give a shout out to the business department at the district office. They are amazing, we did a great job, and I'm looking forward to this year's audit, so thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
Well, if there's no questions or discussions. If I can get a motion to approve the audit.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the audit.
Okay, motion by trustee Zeikwitz, second.
I'll second.
A second by trustee O'Gamian, preferential.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And trustee Candelaria Orr is absent. Future agenda items, anyone have future agenda items they would like to add? Okay,
More audit discussions?
No,
Alright.
I think
Guess not.
it's audited quite already.
okay. Future board meeting dates, we have February 11th, 2026, a regular board meeting at 6 PM, March 11th, 6 PM, April 8th, 6 PM. We also have a special board meeting next week at 6 PM, next Wednesday, January 21st.
Second.
And can I get a motion to adjourn at 7:02 PM?
I move to adjourn at 7:02 PM.
Second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Garrison and a second by trustee Zeikwitz, preferential.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?